Hey, this is your host Habibur Rahman, and welcome to my show Azure Essential Series Episode 4. So, in this episode, we will talk about Azure SQL Database and how to integrate it with Azure Functions. First of all, basically, Azure SQL Server is a fully managed relational database service provided by Microsoft Azure. It based on SQL Server database engines and offer the same capabilities with additional cloud-specific features like Azure SQL supports various deployment options, including Azure SQL Database, SQL Managed Instance, and you can also use SQL Server on Azure Virtual Machine. These are different models available. Let's start this. This is the agenda of our show. We will talk about Azure SQL Database. Then we will configure Azure SQL Database using Azure Portal. First of all, we have to create SQL Server, and then we have to create SQL Database. Then we will make a few firewall changes to allow our remote connection to the database. And at the end, we will have integration with Azure Function. And of course, at the end, we will have a QA session. So let's start this. This is my introduction. I'm a Sisham Corner MVP Microsoft Certified Solution Developer and currently working as a lead software developer of no software. Okay, so first of all, Azure SQL Database. Basically, it's a fully managed service provided by Microsoft Azure. They handles maintenance, patching, backups, and they also monitor. And the main benefit is that it also reduce the administrative overhead of on our teams. Then we have scalability. It supports scaling up and scaling down without any downtime. You can set automatic rules for scaling up your Azure SQL database so that you can handle any dynamic traffic. So that's a good option. Then we have high availability. Azure provides built-in high availability with atomic failover and geo replication. So it means if one of your instance or one of your database is down, you don't have to be worried about. Azure automatically handle that. Then we have security options. Microsoft Azure offers advanced security features like encryption, threat detection, and compliance with industry standards. So all these features are built in available. Then we have intelligent performance. Microsoft Azure databases basically uses machine learning and artificial intelligence to optimize performance automatically. Then we have very easy integration with other Azure services and tools like Azure Data Factory, Power BI, and Azure DevOps. And then we have very flexible deployment options. It supports multiple deployment options to suit different scenarios and migration paths. Next we have pros of Azure SQL Server Database. First of all, the main advantage of Azure SQL Server Database is managed service. It basically reduces the administrative costs. You don't have you don't have to hire a database administrator for handling maintenance and updates of your database. Microsoft Azure will automatically patch any new update or security issues. Then it's easily scalable and downtime is literally zero. Then it is a highly available and it provides disaster recovery features. Uh, so if one of your region is down, then still it will be available from other geo-redundant locations. Then we have security and compliance. Microsoft Azure provide us advanced security features and compliance with major standards, ensure data protection. It provides different options to secure our database. You can apply firewall rules. You can apply SQL Server authentication, or you can use Microsoft Entra ID for authentication of SQL Server database. Then we have integration with Azure ecosystem. As Azure SQL database is part of Azure ecosystem, so Microsoft provides a lot of plugins or services which are easily connectable with Azure database. It also provide different migration tools, so you can use these tools and services for while migrating your existing database to Azure SQL Server database. So then we have a few cons of Azure SQL Server database. First of all, we have cost. Azure SQL Server databases can be expensive, especially for high performance and high availability configurations. For example, if you want high performance, you need high CPU cores, a high database memory, and for availability purpose, you need geo-redundant location. So, of course, if you have a lot of features, then you have to pay for that. Then we have complexity and pricing. Uh, Basically, Azure SQL database pricing model is a little bit different. You have to pay according to your usage, according to your request and storage, and there is also few tools to optimize these costs. Then we have a learning curve. As a database administrator, you have to be familiar with Azure specific features. Then you will be able to administrate that databases. Then we have limited control as it is an IaaS service. So you have very little control on your databases as compared to on-premises deployments. Then we have a dependency on internet connection. For example, if you are hosting your website or any application on your own server, on premises server, and you are using Azure SQL Server database, then you have to rely on internet connection. So this may be one disadvantage of Azure SQL databases. Then we have deployment options. First of all, we have Azure SQL Database. Database is basically a single database with its own set of resources managed by a logical server. So this one is ideal for modern cloud application with variable usage patterns. So this is just like a shared database. Microsoft is managing the SQL Server instance, and you are just creating a new database on Azure. So you have very limited control in this case. Then we have SQL managed instance. So you can also create a managed instance of SQL Server on Azure. It offers 100% compatibility with the on-premises SQL Server, and it is very suitable for lift and shift migration. So in this case, you have more control on your database, but still you don't have control at OS level. Then we have SQL Server on Azure virtual machines. So this one provides you full control over the SQL Server instance because it is running on your virtual machine, and it's ideal for applications where you required OS level access and third-party integration. So these are few deployment models. So let's start this. Let me share my screen. First of all, we will go to Azure panel. So here is the Azure Essential Series solution. So today I have created a new Azure function project. So we will be playing inside this. But account. So you can create this on Azure portal, or if you don't have access or you don't have card or credit card to create subscription, so you can use local SQL Server databases. But now I will show you how to create SQL database on Azure. For creating SQL Server database, first of all, you have to create an instance. So instance is basically the server where you will create your database. So one instance can have multiple databases. So let's see how to create SQL Server. I just opened this window. First of all, you have to select a resource group. Resource group is basically a grouping of all the Azure resources. For example, if you are working on a project, you can use this option for grouping your Azure resources. Then we have a server name. This is basically SQL Server instance name. So you can put any of this. For example, in my case, I can say Azure Essential Series AES. Okay. Uh, AES is already taken by someone. So let's try this. This name is already taken. And then AES. Okay, this name is available. The name is AE, basically Azure Essential Learn. So this will be the domain for connecting with Azure SQL Server database. Then we have authentication method. You can use Microsoft Intra only authentication. You can use SQL authentication, or you can use both options. So in my case, I'm going to use SQL authentication. First of all, we need to put admin username. Then we have to provide password. Okay, password matches and confirm. So let's move to the next section. We have networking. We can add firewall rules here, but currently I'm going with no option. Later on, I will show you how to do this. Then click on security. Uh, so I will not select any option for now. You can also put tags here. Tags are basically used for searching your resources, or you can tag specific thing with this server so that you can know for which purpose you are using this server. So this is the summary screen or review screen of creating SQL Server charges. So let's create this. Basically, it will take few minutes to set up SQL Server data instance. So you can see that a deployment has been initialized. I already have created one SQL Server. So I will show you how to create SQL database. So click on SQL databases, or you can search SQL database. I already have created one SQL Server database, but in this case, I am going to create another database. Click on create option. Okay. So here, first of all, again, you have to select your resource group. I'm using the same resource group. Then we need to provide the database name. So here you can put any database name. You can say yes, learn. Then there is one option, want to use SQL Elastic Pool. Elastic Pool is basically for when you have multiple instances of SQL Server databases and you are using scalability and those things, then you need to use SQL Pool. So currently I'm going with no option. And then we need to select workload environment, as I am doing this just for development purpose. So I will select development. Then we have backup storage redundancy option. You can make it only locally redundant backup storage. We have zone redundant backup storage. We have geo redundant backup storage. So these are different options you can learn more about from Microsoft website. So I will go with locally redundant backup storage because I don't need to be worried about. And here is the cost summary showing for our SQL Server database. And this cost is per GB and per month. So the estimated cost is 4.78 USD for 1 month using. But still, it may vary, depends on your storage and your requests. So let's move to networking section. Here you can also set few firewall rules. So these are options. Then we have security options. Inside security, you can enable Microsoft Defender. Basically, it's built in antivirus, so you can use this service as well. And there are a few other options available for encryption. So I don't need it for now. Then we have additional setting where you can define whether you want to use existing backup or simple database. So in my case, I'm going to not select any of one. Then we have tags, and then we have review and create. So now if I click on create button, this will create a new database. So currently, Microsoft Azure is validating my requirement. Then it will initialize the deployment. So basically, the deployment shows is Azure is creating a new database server or a new database for you. Okay, let's go to home. Let's go to home, and then inside SQL servers. So you can see that the new SQL server have been created. Okay, and if you want to see how many databases are inside this server, so you can move to SQL databases. So currently there is no database. Then we have another SQL server database. Okay, this one is the old database. Currently, my new database is not yet created. So you can see that deployment is still in progress. So meanwhile, let's move to the code and I will show you how I will configure my Azure functions to use SQL Server databases. First of all, I have created one project here, and then I have created a few models, and these models basically will be used for binding with Microsoft SQL Server. So let's see this. First of all, I have employee model. Okay, this is basically representing, or you can say that this is the entity model. I will create a new table inside my database with name employee, and that table will have these three properties. So this is my database model. Okay, so currently I have just uncommented this. Then I have created one function. This function is basically HTTP trigger function, and the authorization level is anonymous. And this function is basically HTTP get function. And this is my HTTP request data. Then I am using SQL input. Basically, in Azure isolated worker models, we have these binding attributes. We have SQL input and we have SQL output. SQL input is basically used for reading data from SQL Server database. So this attribute basically uh, takes two parameters. One is the command text that you want to run on database, and then we have the connection string. And this connection string is basically the app setting names or the secret name where we are storing our SQL Server database connection string. Then we have I enumerable of employees, and this will be basically getting the data from SQL Server database, and then I am returning this data to my API. Okay, so this is my basic API. Then inside app settings, I already have configured one database, but still I will show you how to configure the newly created database with this. So currently, let's move to the Azure portal. Okay. Now you can see that inside Finship database server, a new database have been created. Let's close these notifications. And now here you can see that this is my server name. If I click on this button, it will give me my connection strings. But before that, I have to configure my SQL Server network names so that I can access this from my local server. Okay, so inside my this database AELearn, click on configure button. I already have added my IP addresses here, but still I will show you how you can do that. One option is that you can add your client IP address. So basically, when you add this rule, Microsoft Azure will allow this IP address to access this database. So this is my computer public IP address. So currently, this will be only accessible to my system. So let's save this. Then if I move to SQL database, and after selecting my database, click on show database connection string, and here I can copy my connection string. So you can see that connection strings are available for different operators or different SDKs. So basically I'm using just like Microsoft, so I will use ADO.NET SQL authentication. Okay, so let's copy this connection string and go to my code, and let's rename this. Okay. Uh, so basically, this is my connection string name, and my connection string name. Currently, I'm saying Friendship Lab, or I can say it AES Lab. Okay. Then all other settings are already inside my connection string. But I need to put my password here. So let me uh, write my password here. Okay. So now my connection string have been configured. One other options or thing that I have forget is I need to create a new table on my SQL Server database. So let's do that. First of all, go to Query Editor, and here you need to provide your credentials so that you can connect with the database. I am logging as an admin user. Okay. So currently, if I see, currently there is no database available. So I will create a new database. I will say create table of employees, and inside this I will create ID. This will be basically unique identifier, and this one is also my primary key. Then I have name. I will make it varchar 100, and then I have email. Okay. So let's create the database. Oh, sorry, table. If I refresh this, so now you can see that a new table have been created. If I select all the data from this table, so currently no data is available. Okay, so now let me insert data inside this dbo.employees, and I can directly put my values here. Let's put the name and then email. Okay. Here I need to provide a unique identifier, and I think so I already have inside my, yeah, this one. Okay. I already have one in my clipboard. So let's run this. Okay. Now if I select this, okay, now you can see that there is one record available in my employee table. So now let's move to the code and access this inside Azure Functions. Go to my functions, and here now I need to available my connection string name, basically AES lab, and then here I need to provide the query select static from dbo.implies. Okay, so let's run this and see whether it is working or not. So Azure function currently running, and it is showing me in my console application. If I click on get all button, let's close all other extra windows. And now you can see that newly created record is showing. If I insert one more record here to show you, let's change this primary key, and I will rename it to Umar, and I will say it umar@gmail.com. Create another record. Okay. Now test it, refresh. Okay. Now you can see that It is very easy to integrate with Microsoft SQL Server inside Azure Functions. You just have to use SQL input attribute, and this will handle all the stuff for you. So this was how to get the data of employees from SQL Server database. Next option is to create API. Basically, this Azure function is an HTTP trigger function, and it is using authorization level as anonymous. And this will be using basically HTTP post method only. I am getting the employee body from my request, and then I will be using this model to create a new employee. Okay, so I already have created this model. So let's uncomment this, give it a proper name. We can say that create employee response model. Okay. So now here you can see that there are two options. First of all, I have employee property, and this employee property is annotated with SQL output. And in first parameter, I have to provide the table name, and in second parameter, I have to provide the connection string name. Now, what will happen whenever I will return this model as a response for Azure function? This contained SQL output, so my data will be created, or if ID exists, then it will be updated automatically by this SQL output parameter. Then I have HTTP response data so that I can return some response to the calling client of the API. So let's update this model as well. Okay, next I'm getting this as an input, and I need to specify here from body. Basically, I'm reading this from request body, so I have to provide this Microsoft Azure Functions worker dot, and then I have HTTP dot from body. So now Azure function will automatically map my body data to this object. And as I am creating a new employee every time, so I will generate a new grade, a unique grade every time. And for now, I will get this name and email from the model. Let's put a breakpoint here. Okay, run this. And meanwhile, I will open my postman so that I can make this request. Okay, my function is running, and this is the URL of my function. So let's copy this, as this is an HTTP post request, so I cannot hit from my browser. I have to use Postman. So let's paste it here, and inside body, select raw option, then JSON, and inside JSON, I need to provide name. Name is basically Safyan, and I also need to provide email, and I will say Safyan at the gmail.com. Let's hit this API. Okay. My HTTP triggers function triggered, and if I see the model, I can read the values. Email and name is coming, ID is not coming because I have not passed from my body. So let's continue this. First of all, I'm creating an OK response so that I can return this to the client. Then I am writing that response, basically, which was implied created successfully. And here I'm passing my name and email with a new grade. So if I click on continue, okay. So now it is giving me 200 response, which means imply have been created successfully. If I move to my get all API, let's move it to Postman as well. Okay, if I run this, so now you can see that a new record have been created inside my SQL Server database. So this was how to create uh, a new record inside SQL Server database or how to perform create operation. Then we have a delete function. This delete function will basically take ID of an employee and then it will delete that ID from the database if that exists. So in other functions, I have show you how to use SQL input and SQL output binding attributes. But now I will show you how to use directly ADO.NET with Dapper for connecting with SQL Server database. Okay, so for using Dapper, you need to install it from Nugget Package Manager. So you can use this. I already have installed one. So still let me show you. So this package, you have to install this package and then you can use it with Microsoft SQL connection instance. First of all, inside this, I have an HTTP trigger with anonymous and I will update this HTTP get to HTTP delete and then my route is delete slash ID. This ID will be binded with my GUID and I will delete the record against that GUID. And inside my function, first of all, I am reading the connection string from my local secrets. Then I need to update this as well. Yes, learn. Then I'm creating a new SQL connection, and inside this, I'm passing my connection string, and I'm using parameter with this because it will dispose automatically that connection when I don't need. When I'm using execute async, this extension method is provided by Dapper. So this method I'm using @ID. And this is basically parameterized query. And then I am passing these parameter inside an anonymous object. Parameterized queries are very important to use because it prevents SQL injection attacks on our system. Let's run this and see whether it is working or not. So I click on run button. Okay. So this is the API that I need to use. And if I move to Postman, I need to put this inside URL. And here I need to provide my ID. Okay. So here it will come the grid that I want to delete. For example, I want to delete this record of mine. So let's copy the ID. Let's paste it after the end. Make this HTTP delete request and then click on send button. Okay. Now if I continue, here you can see my connection string is coming. Then I have a new SQL Server connection, and then I'm executing that connection on SQL Server database, and my employee deleted successfully. So if I now run again the get all employees function, so now you can see that it is currently returning me only two records. So this is how you can perform delete operation using SQL Server inside Azure Functions. One option that I need to implement is currently basically missing, which is how to update record using Azure function. Okay, so I have to write code this for, so let's start this. First of all, I will create a function and this function name will be update. And then I need to create uh, a new function. So basically, I'm using and if this will be also create employee response. No, first of all, I need to provide HTTP trigger And then inside this HTTP trigger, I need to provide authorization level. So currently it's anonymous, and then the HTTP method. So for this, I will be using put because I want to update the record. And then I have HTTP request data request. Then I need to read the new model that I want to update. So I will be basically using the same code here. Okay, I pasted it at the wrong line. So let's move it to this line. Okay. So this is my Azure function with HTTP trigger that will update the data. Now I need to write the same code as I have inside my create method. So I let's copy this, and then here I will update the message which is I am showing to the client. And now as I am updating the employee, so I will not generate a new ID. Instead of that, I will use the ID which is provided by the HTTP request body. So this basically you will be confusing how this will update the data. This SQL output basically provide us two options. Okay, it provide us create and update. So you can say that this provide us upsert. You can say create an instance of SQL output attribute which takes a list of rows and upserts them into target database. Upsert means if the record does not exist, it create that record, and if that record exists, it update that according to memory key. So I can update its name to upsert so that I can use it at both functions. Okay. Let's run this and see whether it works or not. So let's run this function. There is one compiler error. Okay. So basically, when I was working on the above method, I accidentally deleted this ID. So that's why it's giving error. So let's run it again. Okay. Now you can see that my update function is running. So let's copy this, create a new postman request. This will be basically HTTP port, and inside body raw, then select JSON, and here I will provide the ID of the employee that I want to update, the name of the employee, and email of the employee. So let's copy an existing ID. Let me get the latest result. So I have two records. So for example, I want to update Sufyan record. So let's copy this ID here, put it Sufyan Yaqub. So I have changed in the name, and then I have change in the email as well. So if I run this request, it hits my breakpoint inside Visual Studio. And if I check the model values, here you can see that ID, email, and name is coming. So continue this, and hopefully this will observe the record inside database. Continue, and currently my request is running. Okay, you can see that the status is 200 and the employee updated successfully. If I again call the get API, so now you can see that the name and email have been updated. So this is how you can perform CRUD operations on SQL Server, Azure SQL Server database using Azure Functions. So these are two different techniques. One is you can use Azure SQL input and output parameter, and the other one is you can use ADO.NET. So and there is one other option. You can also use Entity Framework Core with Azure Functions. So it totally depends on to you with which functionality you are working and what is your requirement. Okay. So let's move to the studio yard and okay. So that was it. It was basically we see how we configured SQL Server database inside our Azure portal. So this is here basically. We see how we configured SQL Server database instance and then how we created SQL database. That is uh, the end of today episode 4. So thank you so much for being the part of C Shop Corner Islamabad chapter. And if you are interested to learn more about Azure SQL, so please subscribe to this show and you can watch a new episode every Saturday 9 a.m. Thank you so much again and have a nice day. Bye.